Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode with the Crime and Coffee Couple. My name's Allison.
And my name's Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Al, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Hey, real good, real good. Thanks for asking. Appreciate it.
It looks like you have a Christmas tree over your shoulder.
Yeah, if you're watching our YouTube channel here, Allison bought a new Christmas tree. Was it from Amazon?
Of course it was.
Man alive. You mention anything in this house and boop, 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 to Amazon she goes right away.
Right away.
Got a black Christmas tree, so you still have some of the spookiness, but when you initially were talking about it, I was like Christmas tree for like Halloween next year? Because it did say, well, we can get a good deal on it now because it's a black Christmas tree.
Mm-hmm. It's black like my soul, my heart.
That's the first thing I thought about.
So, yeah, I hopped on there. It was on sale. You know, we got some ornaments, some lights. It's just really... gets us in the mood for the season.
Yeah, kind of sets the mood. It's very nice.
Absolutely.
So thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. We like to have a little coffee talk a little before our these horrible topics that we bring up. So if you're new here, we'll probably have a couple minutes of banter just to kind of warm things up, get into things, so it's not just like cold and like boom, here's your case.
Yeah.
So and if you've been listening to us and enjoying us for the past like 3 or 4 episodes or more. We like to say it's time to put out. And by put out, we may maybe leave a review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Or maybe even subscribe to our YouTube channel.
If you're feeling especially generous, go ahead and subscribe to our Patreon or Apple subscribers. Did you say our YouTube channel?
Yeah, I said, just like and subscribe, whatever.
That'd be very nice. That's a free way to support us. So
whatever people do over there on YouTube, I don't know.
Who knows? So, but what have you been up to this week?
Oh, just, getting ready, trying to mentally get ready for Christmas. I know it's just early November, but I start to spiral with stress if I'm not on top of things. And thus far, I am not on top of things. Our daughter's birthday is coming up, so I've been gearing up towards that. And then Thanksgiving. So I haven't bought a single thing yet for Christmas.
And probably the biggest time suck, which I don't know if you're going to skip it this year, but you make calendars for your parents all the time.
Ever since our son was born, I've been doing Shutterfly calendars for us, my parents, and your parents.
Not an advertisement, by the way.
And it is exceptionally time consuming. I normally do it on a Sunday when we're watching the Bears game, and it probably takes me the entire day.
It does. Like all day long, you're like finding pictures from Facebook and Instagram. And because, you got to have all the cousins in there and grandma and grandpa. And then for October, you have Halloween stuff. And, December, there's more Christmas stuff and so on and so forth. So
our daughter got a new bed for her birthday. And her and I were just laying in bed yesterday watching Mickey Christmas and stuff. And I was just mentally spiraling. I'm like, I haven't done the calendars yet, and I haven't bought a single thing. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and it's not like you to sit there and not do anything productive.
No, I am somebody that it's like if there's a moment of stillness, I think in my head, what can I be getting done right now?
And back when we were drinking alcohol, December 1st hit one time, and you were like, oh, my God, I didn't do any of my stuff yet. And you pretty much lost it.
I pretty much had a full-blown panic attack on December 1st. It was a Sunday. It was not good. And ever since that point in time, I like to be prepared.
Our friend LG will remember because she helped you through it, I believe.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So another thing we wanted to mention real quick. We've been doing this fun thing. I came up with it, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
You did come up with it.
But I was driving around one day for work, and I drive around, local towns and areas and stuff. Whatever. It doesn't matter what I do. But I found a cute little coffee shop, and I always like to stop into our little coffee shops and just grab myself a latte or whatever it might be. And support the locals, as always. And I was like, you know what? My wife and daughter would really love this place. And I don't think of our son because he likes to sleep all the time. So
yeah, if we mention, I actually, a couple weeks ago when we were starting this tradition, I'm like, you want to get up and try coffee shop? He's like, where is it? I'm like, what difference does it make?
Well, it's 30 minutes away.
I'm like, it's about 40 minutes. He's like, oh, then in that case, forget it. I want to sleep.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Which is fine. Let him sleep. So what we did, I was like, why don't we go ahead and try this coffee shop? We can go out to it. It's a cute little downtown area, like in Podunk. Like it's 40 minutes away. It's kind of cool. It's like Florida has all these cool little towns. I'm sure a lot of places do. It's just like a little Main Street area and some shops and boutiques and stuff. So
and we bring our little pup with us. She has
loves
a
it.
Great time.
Especially Sunday mornings, so she can get all her stuff out and just relax during the Bears games and stuff, which aren't very good to watch these days, but that's besides the point. But so we've been doing that, and we're like, we got to call this something. We're like, the coffee club or whatever, or, we already have the podcast. And so we're like, how about we go to AI and explain what we're trying to say? So we use ChatGPT and we want to go once a week with our family and go find a new local coffee shop. And we usually drive 30 to 40 minutes. And they gave us 10 examples. And we say we like alliteration. So there were like coffee caravan and cup of curiosities and all this different stuff. And it was really cute, all the ideas.
Yeah, it was. So we, I think, have settled on cuppa caravan.
Yeah, cuppa. We really like the cuppa.
Yeah, and our daughter gets matcha lattes and stuff like that, so she doesn't get coffee. So we didn't want to call it coffee caravan, so we're calling it cuppa caravan.
And it's really fun. So I would suggest if you and your loved ones or whatever, just go ahead and go check out a local coffee shop because you're also supporting local businesses, which is awesome.
Exactly. So we get up early, we take our dog and try a new place, and we walk around the town, which is nice. It gets us out of the house. And it gets me working ahead. So like on Saturday, I'm more doing the meal prep instead of Sunday all day in the kitchen, just getting ready for food for the week.
Yeah. So something fun to do.
Just a cute idea.
Yep.
Do you have anything else to add?
No, as usual.
All right. Well, then let's dive right into this cup of coffee. So this is the case of serial killer Charlie Brandt. And shockingly enough, I had never heard of this person or these cases. So this is a listener suggestion from Glamazon Red and Diana. So thank you guys so much. So as we mill about our lives, we're coming across people day in and day out, some that we know, some that we think we know, and those that we just simply pass on the street, maybe just say good morning, give a little wave to. And there's really sometimes no way of knowing what lies beneath the surface of a friendly smile. For all intents and purposes, Carl Eric, or Charlie Brandt, as what he went by as Charlie, he seemed like a completely even-keeled, happy person. He was in what appeared to be a very happy marriage that others actually envied, but it turned out that he was hiding an exceptionally deep and dark secret. This case highlights the question, do we ever truly know the full depths of another person?
Yes.
Well, in this case, it'll make you question that.
Okay.
So it was Thursday, September 2nd, 2004, and Hurricane Ivan, which started out in the Atlantic, was now barreling through the Gulf of Mexico, headed towards the panhandle of Florida. And oddly enough, I was actually sitting in our hotel room doing the research on this case as we were evacuated for Hurricane Milton. So it was just kind of an odd coincidence. Mm-hmm. So many were hunkered down, sheltering in the safety of their home as the wind and rain battered down on the rooftops. Everyone's biggest concern was getting through the storm unscathed. 91 people ended up losing their lives during the passage of Hurricane Ivan, but it was the work of a madman that claimed the lives of two innocent women as the storm passed through, something that had nothing to do with the storm. So 47-year-old Charlie Brandt was living with his 46-year-old wife. This is Terry. They lived on Big Pine Key, which is situated near Marathon, Florida, in the Florida Keys. The island is glorious. I've never personally been there. I have been to the Keys, but it's widely regarded as one of the clearest and best reefs for snorkeling and diving in the Keys.
Fishing, too. A lot of fishing going
Lots
on
and
there.
lots of fishing. So, however, with the storm churning closer and closer to Florida, Charlie and Terry made the decision to board up their home to get it all secured and then evacuate to safer, more inland ground, 364 miles or 586 kilometers up towards Orlando, which is where I sat, evacuated for Hurricane Milton doing this research.
Weird.
So the couple made the 6-hour and 15-minute drive north to stay with Terry's 37-year-old niece, Michelle Jones. Michelle was close with her maternal aunt, and she happily welcomed her aunt and uncle into her home. So Michelle was also close with her mom. This is Mary Lou, which was Terry's sister. So Mary Lou lived in North Carolina, and the two spoke on a near daily basis. So Mary Lou last spoke with her daughter on September 13th, but she remained unable to reach her in the 3 days that followed this. And with that, she began to worry because, again, when you're speaking with someone on a near daily basis and then suddenly they're not returning your calls or texts or whatever, obviously you start to worry. So she wondered how her daughter's visit was going with Charlie and Terry, and she just couldn't understand why she wasn't able to get a hold of her. It was concerning. So 2 days later, it was September 15th, and since Mary Lou remained unable to reach Michelle, she decided to ask her friend, this is Debbie Knight, who lived near Michelle, if she could basically go over to Michelle's for a welfare check. So when Debbie arrived, she remained on the phone with Mary Lou, and she voiced her worry. Something in her gut told her as she walked over to Michelle's, knowing Michelle, and that something would be wrong, that she's not getting a hold of her mom. She felt scared of what she could potentially find at Michelle's house. So she's again on the phone with Mary Lou. She's going over there, and she was knocking on the door. Her knocks went unanswered. She had a key to Michelle's house, but for whatever reason, her key wouldn't open the front door. So then she turned and headed toward the garage, and the garage was almost all glass, so it had windows that could look inside, and that's exactly what she did. She looked in through the glass, and she was absolutely stunned and sickened by what she saw. Charlie was hanging from the rafters of the garage. So as soon as she saw this, she immediately ended her call with Mary Lou and contacted the police. So when authorities arrived, what they discovered inside the sweltering garage paled in comparison to the horrors that lay within Michelle's home. They likened the scene to what would be expected in a slasher film, and even veteran detectives were shocked and sickened by what they found. So after they found Charlie in the garage, he had hung himself from a bedsheet. A ladder was positioned close to his body. They turned to enter the house, fully aware that Michelle and Terry were likely inside because the three of them were staying at that house together. According to investigators, as they entered the home, they initially found a cozy, immaculate space with carefully placed decorations that gave the house a cozy feminine feel. But beyond that, the rooms were cloaked with the aroma of death. So they discovered Terry's body slumped over on the couch, and she had been stabbed 7 times in the chest. Now, this paled, as horrible as this discovery was, this paled in comparison to the horrors of what they found next, and that was with Michelle. So here they moved towards Michelle's bedroom, and they found her in an absolutely gruesome scene, to the point that, again, some of these officers are veterans. They deal with death and gore often. And in this case, many of them had to run outside to vomit. And I'm going to give you a description of a body that was, you know, basically mutilated. So if you want to skip ahead a little bit, I do understand. So Michelle had been decapitated. Her head was placed next to her body. Her heart had been removed. Her breasts had been sliced from her body, and she had been disemboweled. There was no indication of any kind of struggle or fight within the house. So this led investigators to believe that the victims were completely caught off guard when they were attacked and ultimately murdered. They had no idea that they were in danger when they were killed. It was clear, because had they fought back, there would have been things strewn about, and that wasn't the case. So the house had been locked from the inside. There was no sign of forced entry. So based on the obvious evidence inside this house, it was clear that Charlie was the person who had murdered Terry and Michelle and then ultimately hung himself.
What a dirtbag.
So as the scene inside the home came together, the evening of the brutal murders appeared to have started innocently and normally. The trio had dinner together after Charlie cooked some sort of fish. They may have had some drinks and wine.
How do they know this? Oh, because
based on the cooking things. Okay. So, however, it was clear that the dinner was not fully without issues, because after they ate, Michelle called one of her best friends. This is Lisa Emmons. So they talked on the phone. Lisa had planned to come over there and hang out, but Michelle gave her a call and explained that they really wouldn't be very good company that night, since Terry and Charlie had a bit too much to drink and they had been arguing. So Michelle told her friends, just scratch the plans to come over here. She's like, I'm exhausted. I just want to get some sleep. And it sounds like this was the last time anyone had spoken with Michelle. So investigators learned that Charlie and Terry were actually meant to head back down toward the Keys that day. Their bags were actually packed. They were sitting in the front hall waiting to go. But you know, the fact that the hurricane had already passed through, it would have made sense that they would have been on their way home. But for whatever reason, Charlie insisted on staying an extra night. He didn't give any apparent reason. And the only reason why anyone could think was that he knew what he had planned to do that night.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So that made investigators think that this was not based on an argument that they had over dinner, that this was something that was premeditated and planned. Mm-hmm. So Charlie used Michelle's own knives to kill her and his wife. Terry's attack appeared to be very quick, a rapid frenzy of stabs to her chest, whereas Michelle's murder was in stark contrast to this.
Took a lot of time with what he did.
Yes. She had one stab wound to the chest. Charlie then placed her blood-soaked clothing in the bathroom sink and then moved on to the arduous task of what he did to her body. And it was just sick and disgusting and dark and unimaginable. So when Mary Lou is now learning the details of what happened in her daughter's home.
This is Michelle's mom.
Michelle's mom and Terry's sister.
Oh, gosh. She's lost two people.
She has lost two people that she loves, and her brother-in-law is responsible. Somebody that she has known for almost 2 decades.
Yeah, you don't even think, like, is she safe at the house?
It wasn't a question.
Or with these people.
Not a question whatsoever. So Mary Lou was absolutely stunned, as you can only imagine. She couldn't even accept what she was hearing. She couldn't wrap her head around it to absorb and accept that this was actually true. She had known her mild-mannered brother-in-law, Charlie Brandt, for 17 years. She was unable to connect the man that she knew with the horrors that were being described to her over the phone. So as with Mary Lou, Lisa Emmons was equally as stunned and horrified to learn that Charlie could possibly be capable of such sick violence, almost to the point of, are you sure somebody else wasn't involved?
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure that's what they thought at that time. Like, somebody else must have done this and staged it to look like a suicide, a murder-suicide.
Like me doing it or something. People exactly. Like, what the hell?
Yes. Yeah. So Lisa always considered Charlie as a very quiet, reserved man. Oftentimes, he was content with just sitting back and observing interactions. My grandpa was very much like that. He didn't always have to have the word in or be the person that was at the center of the laughs. He was perfectly content to just watch everybody else interacting. She and Michelle were always described him as an eccentric person and really anything but threatening and dangerous. So Michelle had been a single, successful woman. She worked as an executive at the Golf Channel in Orlando. She was doing very well for herself. Debbie recalled that as Hurricane Ivan developed, obviously everyone in Florida is watching the news and the weather and seeing its path. Anytime a hurricane is developing, we want to know what the expected paths are, and that's exactly what everyone was doing. And, you know, as they saw the path, Michelle was a little fearful for her aunt and uncle's safety, and she readily offered up her home for their shelter. Of course, never imagining that her life could potentially be in danger.
No.
Lisa got a phone call from Michelle shortly after Terry and Charlie arrived, and her friends say, hey, come on over. You know, I've got the jacuzzi warming. She had a beautiful home. She had a pool, a jacuzzi. She loved having people over at her home.
Yeah, executive at the Golf Channel. She probably made good money.
Yeah, very social woman. And on top of the fact that those that knew Charlie only considered him to be a nice, agreeable person, they thought that he and Terry truly had the perfect marriage. The two were connected at the hip. They often traveled. They went fishing, boating. They enjoyed the beautiful lifestyle of where they were living. They were living amongst paradise that people will travel to enjoy, and that was their backyard. And they took, you know, and made the best of it.
They're living on an island in Florida.
Yes. So Terry was said to have had a carefree personality. Those that knew her loved the way that she was just so happy-go-lucky, go with the flow, laid back. Basically the opposite of who I am as a person.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Yes, night and day for me.
Must be nice.
I know. So she was not bothered by much in life. She was just kind, caring, and enjoyed everything around her. Also in stark contrast to me.
The more you say, the more.
I'm a frigid bitch. So as word of what happened spread, again, just like Lisa, just like Mary Lou, no one could possibly understand how something like this happened. How can a stable appearing person suddenly snap and do such a horrible thing? So Terry's close friend, this is Melanie Fetcher, she recalls that she always thought, and I'm sure her husband must not have liked this statement, If my husband could love me 1/3 of the amount that Charlie loves Terry, I would be the luckiest woman in the entire world. Oh. She never suspected any issues within their marriage. She never witnessed any fighting.
Kind of sucks if that came out.
I know. I'd be like, ooh, that's kind of...
Might want to work on your marriage.
That hurts. So she didn't ever see Charlie get angry. She didn't think he was hiding any sort of temper. He just seemed pretty laid back. So those that knew Charlie and Terry felt that they were the perfect match. They often thought of each other. They did sweet and thoughtful things to make the other person feel good. They would prepare each other's lunches for them, the other person, because they believed that food tasted better when it was prepared by a person who loved you. And I mean, how sweet and cute is that?
That's adorable.
And then when you tie it to what happened in the story, the two things just don't go together.
Not at all.
So what could have possibly led Charlie to stab his wife of nearly 2 decades 7 times? Why did he kill and mutilate his niece's body? There was no suicide note, therefore there was no explanation as to why he did what he did. So, however, the pieces of the tragic puzzle began to fall into place after Charlie's sister, this is Angela Brandt, she was 2 years older than her brother, she came forward with a very dark secret. So how it all came out was that Angela was supposed to join other relatives for a briefing by police, but they're all waiting in the room and Angela wasn't arriving. So they ended up finding her sitting inside a car in the parking lot. It turned out that she had been harboring a dark secret since her childhood. And this all happened in Indiana, and not a soul outside of her family was even aware of it. And when I really say outside of her family, really it was just her and her father. So she sat down in an interrogation room and she finally worked up the nerve to break her silence. The story she told had taken place over 3 decades earlier when Charlie was 13, he was in 9th grade, Angela was 15 at the time. And at the time, they were living with their parents in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and they lived with their 2 younger siblings. So Angela began to tell her story. It was January 31st, 1971. It was 9 or 10 p.m. We had just gotten a color TV. We were all sitting around watching the FBI with Efren Zimbalist Jr. After the show was over, I went and got into bed to read my book like I always did before I went to sleep. In the meantime, Angela and Charlie's mom, this is Ilse, she was 8 months pregnant at the time. She was getting ready for bed. She was drawing a bath for herself while Angela's dad, Herbert, was shaving. Angela suddenly heard loud noises that she initially thought were firecrackers, and then she heard her father yell either "Charlie, don't" or "Charlie, stop," while her mom was wailing in the distance. The last thing Angela heard were her mom's cry, "Angela, call the police." But before she could even react to what she was hearing, suddenly her brother walked into her room, this is Charlie, and he was holding a gun. And she sat in horror as her own brother raised the gun in her direction and pulled the trigger. So meanwhile, she is bracing herself for the pain that was sure to come, but she only heard a click. And at this point in time, she realized that the gun that he held up was out of bullets. So Charlie dropped the gun, and at this point in time, Angela jumped out of bed. She kicked it under her bed. So with a chance of survival, Angela began to fight her brother, who tried to strangle her. The young girl was terrified. She saw a glazed look in her brother's eyes that she didn't recognize. She had never seen this person before. It was like he had turned into a stranger. She tried everything she could to reason with him, try to snap him out of whatever was happening to him, as she is telling him over and over, "Charlie, I love you. What are you doing, Charlie? I love you." And suddenly, as quickly as everything went terribly, he snapped out of it. It's like a veil was pulled away and he became Charlie again.
So clearly, personality disorder, some kind of disorder mentally.
So Charlie's eyes seemed to clear and he looked at his sister as if he was stepping into the room not knowing what happened. And he said to her, "What am I doing?" So Angela is absolutely traumatized at this point in time. She ran from the house in hysterics. She was in her nightgown. It was bloodied and torn. She ran through the snow to her neighbor's home and began pounding on the door for help. So this was the home of 16-year-old Sandy Radcliffe. She recalls being startled by this sudden commotion at her house. And by the time she got to her door, Angela had already run on to try somebody else's house. So she didn't know what was going on. She closed her door. And then soon she heard another knock on her door. This time it was a much calmer knock. And when she opened the door, she found Charlie standing on her door stoop. And he told her, "Sandy, I just shot my mom and dad." He later spoke with Allen County Sheriff's Department investigators and said, "It's like I was sort of programmed to do it." So Charlie told the police about an event that happened while his family was vacationing in Florida for Christmas break, because obviously they're trying to understand what the hell happened. So he was explaining, me and my dad had gone out hunting, and for whatever reason, there was no backstory as to what led to this, but apparently Herbert killed the family dog. I don't know if it was an accident or what, but, they're hearing this story, and despite that it's obviously a traumatizing thing that happened, they didn't think that this had likely led for him to snap and turn into a different person.
It wasn't like the start of it.
They thought there must be something else there.
Yeah.
So within an instant, the Brandt family was destroyed with zero prompting on what started as a completely normal evening of watching TV and getting ready for bed. Charlie had gone and retrieved a handgun from his father's dresser inside their bedroom. He then walked to the bathroom while the two were getting ready for bed, and his dad is standing at the sink shaving. He shot his father once in the back. He left him wounded. He then turned to the bathtub where his mom was soaking, and as he stood above her, he fired the gun several times, killing both his mother and his unborn sibling, because I'll remind you that his mom was 8 months pregnant.
Yeah.
So Herbert was transferred to a hospital in Fort Wayne where he was treated for several weeks. And uncertain of the extent of his injuries at the time that he was transferred there, a young detective rushed to the hospital because he didn't know if Herbert was on the brink of death.
Yeah, get all the information you can.
Yes, exactly. So he wanted to speak with his critically injured victim before he potentially died. And Herbert really couldn't elaborate on what happened that night, since he was unable to wrap his head around why his son had seemingly snapped. But he did confirm, yes, it was Charlie who did this. So up until this point, Charlie was someone that would be described as a normal kid. Like, nothing like this seemed to be lurking under the surface.
Like no torture of animals.
Not at all.
Like that. Yeah.
Not at all.
That's what you think of.
He was said to have done well in school.
Bedwetting? Any bedwetting?
There was no talk of anything, what do they call that? The Holy Trinity or something like that?
Yeah.
Where it's like setting things on fire, bedwetting, and torturing animals.
Yeah.
There was no mention of any of that. Huh. There were no previous signs of psychological issues or stress. Again, he did well in school. He was described as normal.
Wow.
Classmates from Jefferson Junior High School saw him as shy, quiet, and completely unassuming. So given his young age, the courts decided not to charge him with any criminal offense. So rather than going to trial, it was ordered that he spend just over a year in a psychiatric facility to get to the bottom of what happened. Why did this happen? How did this happen? So while he was there, he underwent what I read was 3 psychological evaluations. So none of the psychiatrists who worked with Charlie ever found any mental illness.
And this was also back in 1971, right? So
yeah.
A long time ago.
So they did not find any sign of mental illness or explanation as to why he shot his family, why he attempted to kill his father and his sister. One psychiatrist, this was Ronald Pantzer, he felt that Charlie was truly a medical mystery. He couldn't put a finger on what was wrong.
Yeah.
He spoke with the teen about his friends, his family, his interests, his life, trying to pinpoint an underlying problem that he couldn't find.
Wow.
They found absolutely nothing to diagnose. They saw this person that was sitting across the table from them as a loving child who came from a loving family and loved his family.
Did he remember doing all this stuff?
They didn't really say. his perspective of it. But when he came to in Angela's room, it's like he didn't know what happened.
But he said,
it's like
what
he
am I doing, right?
disassociated it and said, what am I doing?
Almost like he came to and he saw himself choking his sister, and he's like, why am I choking you?
And then again, he told the officers it was like he was programmed to do it, meaning it was like almost out of his control.
Wow.
Yeah. So a grand jury investigated and issued a warning, writing that such antisocial conduct could repeat itself in the future.
Absolutely.
Just like it happened this time, without prompting, without warning, without anything. This could be a problem in the future. It's a ticking time bomb.
Wow.
You know, it's like a house that's built on a sinkhole. You know there's foundational issues there. Your house seems steady from the outside, but it could drop at any moment. And that is really what they were dealing with at this point in time. So to the average person, it was obvious that something was clearly wrong. You know, a psychologically healthy individual doesn't just walk into his parents' bedroom unprompted and grab a gun.
Right. That's why most of us listen to these sort of stories. It's like you can't imagine what would make somebody do that. And this kid, and now adult, is perfectly capable of doing that because he did.
And to the point that psychologists who are trained to, you know, deal with this sort of thing have no idea and are describing this guy as a mystery. And how out of the blue on a typical night had Charlie murdered his pregnant mom, attempted to kill his father and his sister? How was it possible that he did not have a
Diagnosed?
a
diagnosable?
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
That's okay. We got there.
All right. Easy for me to say.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
How did he not have this sort of mental illness that one could diagnose? We'll put it that way.
Perfect.
They found no psychosis, no distorted thinking, no nothing.
Multiple personality disorders, no doubt about it.
But they couldn't diagnose that.
Right, of course.
So newspaper reports about the attack were very vague. They basically portrayed a bizarre crime by a quiet kid. The last kid anyone could have expected of violence, no less toward his own family. Charlie and his mom were exceptionally close to the point that some people would have said he was a bit of a mama's boy. So why did he kill his mom?
There's no reasoning. There's no it's impossible to point to something. It's like something was wrong in his head, something chemically wrong.
Something was wrong, yeah. So because of his young age, Charlie's records were sealed, and Herbert instructed Angela. And this to me is very unfair. She was 15 years old when this happened. So Herbert, her only living parent at this point in time, is instructing her that you need to keep this whole thing a secret.
You're a dumbass, Herbert, you piece of garbage.
Horrible, horrible way to manage things.
He's dead, obviously. But
no, Herbert was fine.
No, I mean right now. He's probably dead.
I don't know if Herbert's dead.
Right.
So I don't do math in my head. So I'm not sure how old he would be to this point.
It's fine.
But, you know, it's just when there's issues going on, you really should not bury them under the rug because they will come back. I'm very much big on talking out problems, not trying to hide them.
Especially a murder, that's a big deal. That's a big friggin' deal. Attempted murder of 3 people, murdering 2, attempted murder of 2 more. It's like this is like you said, a ticking time bomb, and it's unfair to everybody else that has to come across this guy to not know about it. So the Brandt family ultimately relocated from Indiana to Ormond Beach, Florida. And basically the traumatic event was essentially buried and put behind them as they started fresh in their new environment. Herbert never once spoke to his son about why he had done what he did that night. That's so 1970s.
Totally. Angela was forced to pretend that everything was fine, and Charlie was never asked any sort for any sort of explanation to acknowledge what had happened. It was almost like ignored that it had ever happened.
Like, let's not bring it up so it doesn't happen again, and everybody else live their life.
So what happened was he was released from the psychiatric facility. He came back to the family home, and they all pretended like it never happened. Charlie's baby sisters had been so young that they never even were aware of this traumatizing event.
Wow.
And obviously they knew that their mother was no longer with them, but they were told that she died in a car accident.
Now, what about the neighbor?
It's like everyone knew in the area that it happened.
Okay, so it was like a local thing.
It was a local thing because, again, the newspaper articles were very vague, and then his records were sealed, and they moved from Indiana to Florida.
Yeah.
So it's like it never happened because now he's starting over fresh in Florida.
Yeah.
So after relocating to Florida, Herbert remarried a year later, and then he ultimately moved back to Indiana with his youngest children, the two younger kids.
I'm sure he wants to get away from the one that tried to kill him.
So what he did was he left Charlie and Angela with their grandparents. So Charlie attended Seabreeze High School, and in 1984, he went on to graduate from college with a degree in electronics. He went on to work for Ford Aerospace as a radar specialist, and then he met Terry in 1985. So the couple were married in Ormond Beach, but they soon moved down to the Florida Keys where they had been living at the time of this case. So now in 2004, faced with the gruesome discovery in Michelle's house, her parents, Bill and Mary Lou, were furious that such an alarming event had just been hidden away.
As well they should be.
They felt the system had failed Terry and she had unknowingly married a murderer, is what they believed. That's how they saw it.
Well, by definition, absolutely. That's exactly what happened.
So Bill and Mary Lou were sure that Charlie never confessed his dark secret to Terry because they did not believe that had she known, she would have gone on to marry him. They didn't think that that would happen. They also felt like Herbert and Angela could have saved Terry and Michelle's lives had they been open and honest about his past.
Yeah.
Knowing that it was possible as easily and unprompted as he had snapped the first time, it could happen again.
Sure.
So Mary Lou indicated that after Michelle and Terry's murders, Herbert had never made any effort to reach out to them and acknowledge their loss, or anything. It's like he must really be the type of person to bury his head in the sand.
Yeah, he's a scumbag.
So once authorities were aware now of Charlie's present and past murders, they headed 400 miles south of Orlando to investigate Terry and Charlie's home on Big Pine Key. So here they found the house that was prepared to face Hurricane Ivan. It was meticulously boarded up. Investigators were really taken aback with the extreme precision that Charlie had cut each piece of wood to fit perfectly in a custom manner. He had cut out the holes for the door handles on the French doors. And they almost gave a look that, he was like an engineer, that's how meticulous. Like
he was an engineer, right? I mean,
he was a
worked for Ford
radar
Aerospace?
technician.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So things were just as precise inside the house, excuse me, inside the house as it was outside. And although they did strangely come across something that you wouldn't expect to see, they found a graphic medical poster displayed on the back of a bedroom door, and what it depicted was female anatomy. So the woman in the picture, her hair was put up in a bun, and it depicted the skeletal and muscular system one would expect to find in a doctor's office,
right,
not inside the home of a couple that weren't in the medical field. So it's like this house is neat and tidy and everything seems normal, but then you have this odd poster on the back of the bedroom door. So investigators wondered what Terry thought of this poster that she would have seen on a daily basis. Parts of the body were exposed on the poster that really unsettled the investigators, as Charlie had virtually duplicated or exposed these very areas on Michelle's body. So obviously this poster played into what he did to Michelle.
Yeah.
So they also found medical and anatomy books, as well as a newspaper clipping that depicted a human heart. Detectives shuddered, recalling the scene in Michelle's bedroom where her heart had been removed from her body.
Crazy.
So investigators also came across Victoria's Secret catalogs that had not been addressed to Terry, as one would expect. Instead, they had been addressed to Charlie. And they also learned that he apparently referred to Michelle as Victoria's Secret and really called her that and not Michelle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like to her face or just...
Yes.
Okay.
I guess that was a little something strange.
Yeah.
As the disturbing layers of this case were exposed, the Jones family began to realize that rather than being a friendly uncle, Charlie had been secretly infatuated with his own niece.
Sure sounds like it.
Co-workers of Charlie also came forward to report that they had noticed that he had an inappropriate fixation on his niece. So based on the way that Charlie spoke of his niece and the things that he viewed online, Rob Hemmert, who was the lead investigator, believes that Charlie planned Michelle's murder. And as they dug deeper into the search history on his computer, they found exceptionally dark websites that involved necrophilia, death fantasies, and violence against women. Based on the crime scene in comparison to what Charlie had been looking at online, it was clear that he had gotten a lot of his ideas with the things he was looking at online. So it's just all coming together as the fact that this seemingly normal person was not looking at seemingly normal things online. So this wasn't something that he had just calmly evacuated up to Orlando to stay at Michelle's house. And like I said, this argument with too many drinks at dinner just was a knee-jerk, crazy thing that happened. This had been definitely planned.
It's a long time.
So to the outside world, Charlie was nothing more than an ordinary guy. As investigators paged through Terry's diaries that they found within their house, the entries reflected just an ordinary life. They weren't very detailed. They basically just summed up their days. They said things like, went fishing, got a bull dolphin, nice dinner with Charlie. Some entries did vaguely hint that something could be wrong. One may have said, weird day, but nothing specific that would understand what prompted her to write that. So Terry did note occasions, though, that Charlie was out late, if not out all night. She never elaborated as to where he was, though. So musician Jim Graves had been married to Angela. He spent time with Charlie during the 1980s. He recalls coming home one day to find Angela hysterically crying. And this is when they sat down together and he was trying to find out what was going on with Angela. And this is when she opened up about what happened decades earlier.
Sure, it's very traumatizing.
Right. So knowing Charlie at this point in time, Jim figured, he couldn't even see the connection. Like, how does this person I know as an adult, how did he do this when he was 13 years old?
Because it wasn't like the Charlie it was
right.
some thing that took him over.
Yes. So the person that he knew seemed perfectly fine. Obviously Jim is not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, so he just figured whatever happened years before, he had recovered from it.
Yeah, crazy kid stuff.
Yeah. So he said, the guy he knew was very gentle, almost to the point where Charlie refused to even kill a bug that he would find in the house. So looking back, Jim regrets not paying more attention, especially after he and Angela split up. And, he still remained friends with Charlie. And one time they got into a deeper conversation. After a day of fishing, the two men had some beers together. They were just chatting. Somehow their conversation turned to the topic of revenge. And they spoke about how when their feelings were hurt, their natural reaction would be to lash out. And then all of a sudden, Charlie makes a very odd statement. He turns to Jim and says, well, if you really want to get revenge, you should kill someone and cut their heart out. And obviously Jim's like, whoa, that conversation just took a sharp left turn.
He's like, yeah, I totally should. Anyways, you guys want to get back?
So obviously at this moment in time, Jim felt very uneasy by this suddenly bizarre statement, but he dismissed it and he kind of forgot all about it. Years later, his new girlfriend wanted her to fix her friend up. This is Terry, and Jim thought of Charlie and fixed Terry up with Charlie. Never thinking, they'll go on a couple dates. He didn't think it would lead to marriage, but obviously it did.
So he knew about it too and set her up.
Yes.
Yeah, he should be a little guilty.
So Charlie and Terry were married on August 29th, 1986. Jim was Charlie's best man. He spoke with his friend and urged him, to come forward and tell Terry about what happened when he was 13 years old. Jim indicated that Charlie did tell Terry about what happened in 1971. When Jim went down to visit the couple, he asked them, when are you guys going to start having kids? And Terry made mention, considering all that happened in Charlie's past, maybe it would be best that we not have kids. So then this only solidified Jim's belief that, yes, Charlie had told Terry about what he had done when he was 13 years old.
Yeah, and, maybe Terry's so passive that it's like, yeah, maybe it was kid stuff, and she was already in love with Charlie, and it's like,
Right.
as much as her family would like to think, she'd be like, no, I'm not marrying you. If you're in love with somebody, you can overlook some things.
Sure.
Maybe even murder.
Right. So investigators did not think that what Charlie had done to Michelle's body could possibly be his first time doing such a thing. And they felt confident that there had been likely more victims in this guy's past. So investigator Hemmert believed that if they continued to dig, they would probably find evidence that Charlie was a serial killer based on his past and what he had done in this case. They wondered how many victims he could be responsible for in the 30 years that he attacked his family, killed his mom, and then now is killing his wife and his niece. Because again, 30 years, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So one particular case stood out to investigators, and this was the 1995 murder of 38-year-old Darlene Toller, and she was a sex worker in Miami's Little Havana neighborhood. And just like with Michelle, Darlene had been decapitated, her heart had been removed. Her body had been discovered along a highway, wrapped in a blanket, and then wrapped in plastic and tied like a package. When the blanket around Darlene's body was investigated, they found dog hairs, which they also found similar hairs in the back of Charlie's truck. He also kept a close record of his mileage, and every time he'd stop for gas, he would jot it down. So amongst these mileage records, they noted an entry for 100 miles at the time of Darlene's murder, and Darlene just so happened to live 100 miles away from where he was living.
Interesting.
So because he and Terry worked opposite shifts, it would have allowed him to move about and travel without her knowledge because she was busy at work. So because DNA analysis of animal hair is costly and difficult, the hair found in Charlie's truck compared to what was found on a blanket around Darlene's body has not yet been matched. So they can't definitively say that Charlie was the person to have murdered.
Can't be that expensive.
That's my thought. I'm like, test the damn hair.
It's not $17 million, It's okay, maybe we don't upgrade this park this year and let's test this
right.
DNA.
That's my thought. So another murder happened even closer to Charlie's home that has investigators even more convinced that he is the killer. So during July of 1989, a local fisherman made a horrific discovery while he was out fishing. So he caught something on his line, he's reeling it in, and as it's getting closer, he thinks he's hooked what appears to be a mannequin. And if you listen to true crime podcasts, it's never, ever, ever a mannequin. It's always a body. And that's exactly what happened in this case. So this is when the body of local woman, 38-year-old Sherry Parisho, was discovered. So Sherry lived on a small rowboat. She had a bike and she would bike around. She lived
on a rowboat?
She did.
Huh.
So she would bike around town and then she would put her bike on the bow of her boat, row out about 100 yards from shore, and this is where she lived. So investigators believe that she was killed while she was on her boat. Years passed and the boat remained locked in evidence, and investigators noted cutting marks in the wood. They believed that the bottom of the boat was used as a cutting table for her body. So as with Michelle and Darlene, Sherry had also been decapitated. Her heart had also been removed.
Okay, this is all the same guy.
Completely.
Obviously.
So police had only the sketch of a man that a witness saw running across the highway near the scene of the crime. However, investigators then heard from Charlie's former brother-in-law, Jim Graves, who indicated that Terry had told him something that happened after Sherry's murder. So he recalls Terry saying, well, somebody was killed not too far from our house. And I'm thinking about, possibly calling the sheriff. So obviously Jim is asking her to elaborate on this. And Terry says, well, because of Charlie's past. So after speaking with Terry, Jim confronted Charlie and said, Terry thinks that you could be the person responsible for killing this murder. And all he responded back was a simple, I didn't do it. After investigators spoke with Jim under oath, though, he did come out with more specifics as to what his conversation with Terry entailed. So now, according to Jim, Terry apparently found Charlie downstairs. He was covered in blood. And when she asked him what the hell happened, he claimed he was filleting a fish.
Yeah. And
so
it squirted all over him.
Not a
right?
chance. I grew up in a house where we would spend our vacations fishing. I would sit by and watch my dad fillet fish. He was never covered in blood. So also the fact that it was a work day in the evening, but she took what he told her to be the truth. And she let the subject drop, of
that
course.
It wasn't him.
So after hearing his statement, investigators were certain that Charlie was absolutely the man that was responsible for Sherry's murder. They couldn't explain why she hadn't noted anything about what she saw in her diary. They wondered if Terry actually believed his story. They questioned why she chose to stay with someone that she believed could be capable of something so horrible. And much of the time, though, we don't want to believe that the person that we're in love with, that we've committed to spending the rest of our life with, would be capable of committing such a horrible act.
And that you're largely having a great time, traveling and loving on each other and
making each other's lunches. Right. So in total, what my sources have told me is that police believe that Charlie could potentially be responsible for as many as 24 murders.
Holy cow.
So Charlie continued to fool everyone who only saw him as someone who could be relied on, a friend who was there when you needed him. They did not know the true Charlie, the dark depths of what was hidden under the facade of a smiling face.
Well, it kind of reminds me of Dexter a little bit, the TV show Dexter, where Dexter says he has like a dark passenger or whatever I think he says. And it's like there's that dark passenger that needs to be fed every once in a while. And this is where Charlie goes out and kills somebody and then he's fine for a few months or whatever it might be.
Right.
And then, and I'm sure that's what Terry was seeing too. And just like, oh, he's fine. He's good. It's so sad.
It is. So those close to Michelle Jones and Terry Brandt have struggled to accept their deaths in the months that followed their murders. Each day that Mary Lou wakes, she is forced with another day of grief and the reality of living the rest of her life without her daughter. And on top of being without her daughter, Mary Lou and Bill cannot come to terms with the violent way that her life was taken. It's not like, it's a tragic death of a car accident or cancer or something like that. Somebody that they knew and loved and trusted not only murdered their daughter, but absolutely mutilated her body in her own home when she opened her home for them for safety purposes. Yeah. And, I don't know how you ever wrap your head around that. So passing days only cause their fury toward Herbert and Angela to grow, knowing that maybe Charlie couldn't have been cured from whatever sickness that his mind was suffering, but maybe he could have been stopped. Their daughter could still be here today, and anyone, that knew of the darkness that he was capable of was Herbert and Angela. So when asked if they...
Also their daughter, Terry.
Right, potentially. They're having a hard time wrapping their minds around if Terry actually knew.
I get it. I definitely get it. I can totally see where they're coming from, but there's a good chance Terry
based on
knew.
What Jim said.
Yeah, and Jim was also part of this too.
He knew too.
Yeah.
So when asked if they hold Angela and Herbert responsible for Michelle and Terry's deaths, Bill responds, well, I do, because they should have gotten the man help, and they know he needed help. Now, I will speak out in, defense of Angela, because again, she was a victim. She was 15. She was probably a freshman in high school when this happened, when her mom was murdered and her brother attempted to kill her and her father. She lost a baby sibling that had yet to be born. Was it really her responsibility when her father was telling her, don't tell a word about this, don't say a word about this, we're going to pretend it never happened? my protective instinct is to protect that 15-year-old.
Yeah, definitely protect the 15-year-old. But once she's 21 plus, then yes, it's time to go be a big girl and put on your big girl pants and tell somebody.
So after the murders, Angela told Mary Lou that she was relieved that her brother was dead because she said she had been living her life in fear of him since the moment he snapped when she was 15.
Sure.
She elaborated that since he died, she has now finally been able to sleep peacefully at night. For 20 years, she said she did not sleep with the air conditioner on because she didn't want the sounds within the house to be muffled by the sound of the air conditioner.
And I feel for her. I absolutely do. It's got to be insane to live with such a secret. And
right.
Even hear any creak in the house, you'd think you're going to be murdered by your own brother.
Right.
Like that's horrible. And I can't imagine what that's like. And at the same time, maybe, hindsight's 20/20.
Of course. She would sleep with her doors and windows securely locked, fearful that Charlie would come back to finish off what he started 30 years ago. So despite the fact that Jim Graves indicates that Terry was aware of Charlie's dark past, like I said, Mary Lou finds it very hard to believe, and she cannot believe that her sister would choose to stay with a man that was capable of such sudden, unprompted violence, and in her heart, she doesn't believe it to be true. So the Brandt family are not allowing the records to be released from Charlie's brief stay at the psychiatric facility, which could potentially shed some light on his past. Mary Lou feels that they are preserving a family secret, while investigators would love to see what sort of treatment, if any, he received and how he was handled during his time in the facility. What triggered him to snap in 1971 to kill his mother and attempt to kill his father and sister? What was the breaking point? What lead investigator Hemmert would like to ask Charlie if he was still here would be why. What was going through your mind at the specific point in time that caused you to do what you did? And why was it so different than how you took the life of Michelle versus how you took the life of your wife? And obviously, people do think he was sexually fixated on his 37-year-old niece, is what they believe. And that's probably why. So Mary Lou theorizes that Charlie had a covert evil nature that he was able to mask and bury, because obviously he did. Everyone in his life that knew him saw him as a kind, laid-back guy. Nobody thought he could be capable of searching for his, on his computer, sitting in the darkness of night, looking up things like necrophilia and whatnot.
Yeah.
Nobody could imagine that. And that's just kind of a scary thought, to think that somebody could be so good at hiding another side of them. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yep.
An invisible criminal was basically walking among us, whose true victim count will really never be known. A lot of the cold cases that could be connected to him are lacking the physical evidence and require a lot of resources and legwork, but investigators do say they're not giving up and trying to connect him. So it's like, okay, then test that dog hair,
right,
in relation to the case we mentioned. The Jones family want new laws implemented that will prevent what happened to Terry and Michelle from happening in the future. And they would love to see some sort of database that is similar to what is used for sex offenders, to include any offender of any age who has killed another person, regardless of the circumstances. They want to make it their mission to prevent anyone else from dealing with the pain that they have had to live with on a constant basis. In July of 2006, an Indiana judge released Charlie Brandt's mental health records to specifically investigator Rob Hemmert. So Rob Hemmert did get to review these records. They were never released to the public. And Rob Hemmert did say the records have helped him better understand the motive for Charlie's crimes. That's very vague and cryptic, and we will never know what those revealed because they have been not released to the public.
But that guy got to read them?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not, I guess it's not upon him to release them.
Okay.
So, there might be a lot more that we don't know or understand that are written in those records. So it's really a mystery, but that is the story of serial killer Charlie Brandt, who literally walked among his people in his life as this normal guy, and he was hiding a really dark other side of himself.
I made a couple notes. I am of the belief that they're trying to find out why Charlie would do such a thing. I think it's a mental disorder. You can't explain the why. It's just something in him that he had that need and that popped, and it's like, okay, I'm time to kill. Like, that if you're looking for like a standard logical reason, you're never going to find it. And I'm sure that's what some of those papers that guy read saw. I'm sure, years and years of research later, it's like, oh, this is definitely this type of disorder.
Right.
Because now, like, you go to a psychiatrist, you might get 5 or 6 different diagnoses, and it's like, yeah, this and this and this
right.
and this. I'm sure you would have been diagnosed now. And that's what's really hard for our minds to wrap our minds around.
Right. We want to understand why something happened.
And then Terry's family, I believe, they wanted those laws put into place.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's a good idea. I would definitely cut it off like between an accidental death versus something, not necessarily premeditated, but like something like Charlie's situation, definitely that should be known. Like if they're capable of pulling a trigger on their own mother, I would gladly be the commissioner of letting it be known.
You're a commissioner of a lot of things now.
I don't feel, I think I can do this and sleep at night just fine, basically. So like something like Charlie, definitely that'd be on his record forever. You'd have to do some digging or something to find it out, but it'd be available. Somebody that like, got into a fight when they were a kid in like high school and accidentally killed somebody, like I don't think that should necessarily be maybe.
Well, if you're capable of the type of violence that could lead to somebody's death.
Well, a punch could do that. So you punch them and they hit their head and they could die. So,
yeah, I guess that's the gray area that would be tricky. Obviously, Charlie's case would be easy to say yes.
Right.
But it's those gray area ones that who's to say that, yes, this name should be listed on that database and no, this one should not.
And the last note, I'm sure Charlie, he was learning how to do a lot of these murders and stuff. So it wasn't like he was instantly, like you said, it was clear he did it before because it was so, so meticulously done.
With Michelle, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So they found a lot of other similar murders, but then there's also probably a bunch of murders that aren't similar.
Right.
Where he was just figuring
working his way to that point.
Exactly. So It's so scary how many things he could be capable of.
Right. And it's the whole idea that we know that murderers often escalate. What could start as a peeping Tom situation can lead into sexual assaults, could then lead into murder, kind of like the Golden State Killer. And maybe with Charlie, what led to just like a simple stabbing death, and I'm not like saying that flippantly, then ultimately morphed into this whole mutilation of a body, like you said.
And really, I think that's like any addiction. I think it's just like any addiction. If you're a person that likes alcohol and keeps on drinking, we need more and more and more because your body gets used to it and your brain gets used to it. Or video games, or any addiction, food. It's like, okay, first it's like, a couple chicken wings and it's like, I need 10 chicken wings. I need 12, 15, 20.
Right.
It's like your brain just needs more. Or porn addiction,
to get that dopamine hit.
Right. You have guys addicted to that stuff on video and it's like, man, they just need more. They need the next level. They need choking. They need snuff. It's like, it's not.
It just ramps up.
That's why he was looking up like necrophilia and stuff.
Right.
It's like it's the next level. It's like that's why it's so dangerous to like let your mind go that way because then you need so much to get your mind to where it should be.
Right.
It's really,
like equilibrium.
Really yeah. And if anybody's listening to this, we'd love to hear what you guys' thoughts on this whole situation is. Go ahead, leave a comment within Spotify or on the YouTube channel. Facebook, any of those places. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, and what gets me a lot about this case is we could all think back to our work. Like I work in a hospital. There's a lot of people there. There's always that strange person that you're like, ugh, you're weird.
Those are the ones you think are the murderers.
But nobody said that about Charlie.
Right.
And that's what scares the crap out of me with this case because he walked among us like a seemingly normal person that had like the darkest of dark beneath him.
Yeah.
And that's scary to not know.
Well, if this case can teach us anything, it's, if you know something, say something.
Right. That's true.
Yep.
But we thank you guys so much for being here with us. We appreciate your support. Even if you, just like us on YouTube, just listen to us, whatever it is you're doing to support us, we appreciate you. We will be back next week with another scheduled episode. And until next time, bye.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.